I am the chair of the steering committee for the Intercollegiate MAs this year, which is why I'm chairing this meeting, which is being hosted by the Institute of Classical Studies. I'm also, I should give you a bit of a background, I'm also in a more humble capacity, a teacher on the MA programme, teaching Roman history at UCL, University College London. Now, I'll just say a little bit about the nature of the intercollegiate programme and also our running order for the day. So that we will start off in a few minutes with a welcome message from the Director of the Institute of Classical Studies, Greg Wolfe, and then move on to hear from the Librarian of the Joint Library of the Institute and the Hellenic and Roman Societies, before hearing from the Secretary of the Roman Societies, Hellenic and Roman Societies, and then a message from the conveners of the Postgraduate Work in Progress seminar, also hosted by the Institute of Classical Studies. So those are all things that are focused on, in normal times, on Senate House in Mallet Street, and are here brought together today virtually, grouped together in a sort of Senate House cluster. And then we move out virtually to the various colleges of the University of London, and here in strictly alphabetical order, seems to be the fairest way to do it. First of all, from the Classics Department at King's, where the MA Ancient History and MA Classics are based this year. Then we go to the Classics Department in Royal Holloway, also running the MA Ancient History and MA Classics this year. Then the History Department of Royal Holloway, out of which the Late Antique and Byzantine Studies programme is run, before moving on to UCL, University College London, and first of all Greek and Latin, which runs on the intercollegiate programme the MA Classics, and then to History, out of which we have MA Ancient History and the Late Antique and Byzantine Studies MA. And then once we've heard from each of the colleges about what's happening there in terms of practicalities of teaching this year, etc., we will have a question and answer session sort of covering questions that may well have arisen at that point. Before we move to a virtual recorded library tour to give you a taste of the richness of the joint library, and then a question and answer session with Joanna Ash, who I can see on screen there, so I'm relieved that she's here. A live question and answer session following that. Before, at least for MA Ancient History and MA Classics, you go into breakout groups from just after 4 o'clock, and then we'll come back together to hear testimony from a former graduate of this programme, and an opportunity for final questions and answers about 4:30. So that's our general running order for the day. So first of all, as you probably gained from that quick run through, this is quite a complex operation, which involves coordinating not just 4 institutions, so the Institute of Classical Studies, King's College, Royal Holloway and University College London, but also multiple departments sometimes within those institutions. And this is a major challenge logistically and bureaucratically. So especially in these difficult times, please bear with us if things don't always run perfectly. We are certainly hoping to give you the smoothest possible experience, but there may well be hiccups along the road to this year. I know that both in King's and in Royal Holloway, teaching has already started. So some of you may have already had some experience of the teaching programme this year. For others of us, for instance, at UCL, this is something that's going to be hitting us next week, and we will be facing the reality from next Monday onwards. As I said, this involves the four institutions and 6 different departments, each of which have, you'll see, although we all adhere to very similar practicalities in terms of the running of the programme, there are some slight differences in regulations, and you might find that there are slight differences, especially in the procedures around submitting coursework. And in that case, what you need to do is pay attention to what the procedures are in the department to which the particular module that you're doing is attached, because it may well be different even between 2 departments at UCL, between Greek and Latin and history, and again it might be different between classics and history in Royal Holloway. So slight differences in procedure, I'm afraid, are going to be inevitable, and that's where you need to pay attention to the rules of the department out of which the module is being studied. Conversely, if you have problems in your own circumstances and require to have some kind of mitigation, for instance, extension to coursework, this is where you should apply to your home institution, to the programme tutor in your own college, in your own institution, who will consider your case and take that to the relevant authorities. And then the result of the outcome of whatever happens there, is decided there, will be communicated to the other departments that are teaching you, and they will follow whatever has been ruled by your home institution. So that's a case where your home institution's rules override the rules of the institution in which you're being taught. So those are some sort of basics, basic principles underlying the delivery of this programme. Having said all that, I should, before I hand over to the video presentation from Professor Wolf from the Institute of Classical Studies, I should say, I want to say, I should say, something positive and upbeat, which is, first of all, you should be very proud, I hope, that you've gained a place on this very exciting programme, which, because of the intercollegiate nature of the programme, offers a much richer, wider variety of courses than we could possibly do as individual colleges. And it does involve inevitable complications, but I think we should remember that what we gain from this complex relationship is much greater than the various inconveniences that we'll come across along the way. And I hope those won't mar your experience. If you have questions as we go along, do put them in the chat, and we will be monitoring that, and we'll hope to group those together and come back and answer those at the various question and answer points. So I think if Valerie is ready, we'll move over now to Professor Wolf's welcome message. Thank you all for the moment.
Welcome. Welcome to London and welcome to the Institute of Classical Studies. My name is Greg Wolfe. I direct the ICS. The ICS is one of a number of institutes which are grouped together as the School of Advanced Study. And all of us deal with one area of the humanities or another. While you're here, you might see interesting things on in the Warburg Institute, which deals largely with the classical tradition, or in the Institute of Historical Research, or maybe in philosophy or one of our other sister institutes. If you were in a normal year, and I'm not going to say this throughout the talk, you'll be gathered now in one of the huge travertine-lined halls of Senate House, in the middle of Bloomsbury, right next to the British Museum. And then after we'd had a talk, some of you would go upstairs to the third floor to see the library. And the Institute of Classical Studies is right there next to the library. That's the Classics Library, not Senate House Library. It's the library that ICS runs along with the Hellenic and Roman societies, which helped fund us back in the 50s. And the library has within it one of the world's best collections of classical material, particularly good for foreign journals, for encyclopedias, for those strange editions of text that you've heard of but never seen a physical copy of, but also amazing collections of exhibition catalogues from archaeological sites, you'll find historical monographs, you find specialised collections on numismatics, on papyri, on epigraphy, all the reference stuff you could possibly want, and more. Now, the ICS is funded nationally to try and do those things that no individual department can do on its own. And so we run, for example, a Mycenaean seminar that no one department has got enough Mycenaeanists in it. But we have one seminar to which people come from York and Durham and Sheffield and Exeter and all over. And we do that with a lot of subjects. One of the ways we can do sort of build national capacity too is by training. So we'll run training courses. Some of those are still existing online this coming year. In the past, we've trained in everything from Old Persian to something which is our speciality, digital classics. The ICS is the national field leader in digital classics. And you can learn an awful lot there from my colleague, Gabriel Baudard, and his friends and associates. Now, alongside training, we have a publishing arm, we publish a journal, we publish books, we publish supplements to the journal, that is. We also try and do more and more web resources. We run public engagement events, and we also train people how to do public engagement. And we give very small grants for conferences and for public engagement. And we also we host conferences and workshops. Some of them international, some of them local. Some will end up as a book, some will end up as a field, who knows. And although we're not doing so many of those at the moment because of the pandemic, we'll be doing more in the future. We'll be doing stuff online. We're already doing stuff online. And I hope you will come and join us in those. That's our national role, the various things we do for classics nationally and actually internationally, because there's always a couple of dozen visiting scholars from around the globe working with us here as well. Within London, the ICS is a meeting point where you can sort of harness the collective energies of one of the largest communities of professional classicists on the planet. If you put together those in King's, in Royal Holloway, in the various UCL departments, in Birkbeck, people from the Warburg, from Queen Mary, from other places, colleagues from the British Museum, from the British Library, you end up with an extraordinary range of skills. It was a very smart move to come to London. Congratulations. Or to stay here, but you know that anyway. London has a much more diverse population of specialists than even some very large institutions. And that means for you, as you're beginning a study in more depth of how to do classical research, you have world experts in almost everything around the place. Do make the most of the collegiate university of London as a whole, and the ICS, which is meant to be a place where those things can meet and coordinate. We host other things too. Most of the national societies you've heard of, and some you haven't, meet here. The Hellenic and Roman Society in good times meet here. So does the CA, Classical Association. The Women's Classical Committee, which is a newer body, the Virgil Society, the Council of University Classics Departments that fights for our subject to government and to educational quangos and so on. So there's a lot going on. Much of it you won't see, but try and see some of it. It'd be possible to come here and just come to our seminars and our events on Zoom and stay in the library or log on and use electronic resources and have a very scholarly time. We have seminars in Greek and Latin, we have seminars in ancient history and ancient philosophy, there's seminars in classical archaeology, I mentioned the Mycenaean seminar, there's digital classicist seminar. You could fill your days with going to these things. In fact, it would drive you crazy. I know, because I tried when I was first appointed. There's just too much to see all of it. I hope you do have an educational year or 2 years with us. But I hope it's not too scholarly, because London's an amazing place and there's lots and lots to go and see outside the formal setup. Go to the productions of Greek dramas that are happening all over the place almost any time in normal times. Go and see collections, not just the British Museum, but in lots of the other little collections in houses and homes around London. Get some sense of the city of London, walk the Roman Wall, travel out to some of the other things. There's a huge amount you can do here in your time in London, and it will go really fast, particularly those doing it all in 1 year. This year seems now to stretch out like a new experience. You'll be finalising your thesis topic before too long. So, make the most of it. Have a great time. I normally end this talk by saying, I hope to see you soon. Well, I do. I hope to see you soon. I know it won't be very soon, and we're not going to meet in an embodied or physical way for a while, but I do hope to see you. I hope soon we will be able to get back to normal, have more face-to-face events, and reconstitute that energetic community that we're quite familiar with here, but you're just joining. But we're going to be energetic through the year online too. So have a wonderful time. Welcome.
Well, I can hardly do better than that. Upbeat introduction from the director of the Institute of Classical Studies. I would second everything that he says there about making the most of what London has to offer and the various institutes and colleges have to offer. One thing he said about the seminars that I would just follow up on is that under the current conditions where seminars are being held online, you will need to go to the Institute of Classical Studies website and find the events section there in order to register to get an invitation to the relevant seminar that you're interested in. So you do have to actually actively go out and explore to get an invitation to be admitted to those seminars. But I really strongly, as he did, encourage you to do so. In terms of the rhythm of your week, as he said, you could really go to a seminar almost every afternoon of the working week. And that would probably exhaust you, even if it did enrich your cultural life enormously. The way that the seminars and the teaching program mesh together is that most of the teaching will be timetable between 9 and 5 or 6 at the latest. And the seminars at the Institute of Classical Studies generally start at either 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon and run for usually talks of 45 minutes to an hour, followed by an opportunity for discussion of another 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So about an hour and a half in the day. So in terms of fitting those into your schedule, it's not too onerous and hopefully very enjoyable. And I do encourage you to attend those. We'll have a message later on from the conveners of this year's postgraduate work in progress seminars, talking and inviting you, encouraging you to come along to those, which happen on Friday evenings. The other seminars that you might be particularly interested are the Greek and Latin literature seminars, which happen on Monday evenings, and the ancient history seminars, which happen on Thursday evenings. So do check out the events page, as I said, of the Institute of Classical Studies website to get further details. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to hand over for a few minutes to Joanna Ash, who is the librarian of the Joint Library of the Institute of Classical Studies and the Societies for the Promotion of Hellenic and Roman Studies, the HAL, as it is known. So, Joanna, may I hand over to you?
Hi, thank you. Can everybody hear me? Yeah, brilliant. My name's Joanna Ash. I'm the librarian of the Combined Classics Library. We're here in Senate House on the 3rd floor of South Block. The library is, as has been mentioned, jointly owned and managed by the Institute of Classical Studies and the Hellenic and Roman Library, which is a joint body supported by the Hellenic and Roman societies. The library has existed in one form or another since around 1879, and it's been in its current location in South Block of Senate House for over 10 years now. We've got around 150,000 books and bound periodicals. We carry over 700 current periodical titles, and we collect works pretty much relating to all aspects of the classical world, starting from Minoan Mycenaean times and going right through to late antique, early Byzantine. And then on top of that, we also carry some materials on classical reception and classical teaching and so forth as well. We collect in most of the European languages, as well as primary texts in Latin and Greek, obviously, and we hold, of the materials we hold, around 15% is not held and will probably never be held by another library in the UK. So for some resources, we really are the only place you can find them in this country. And if you are looking for a book that we don't have, then do just come and let library staff know, and as long as it fits with our collection profiles, we will do our best to get hold of a copy. One of the peculiarities of the two types, the fact that the library is joint between these two institutions, is we've got two types of membership. So there is membership through the Institute of Classical Studies, and that is reference membership to the library. So you can, any of you can just come in and join. You're postgraduate students in the University of London, so you're entitled to ICS membership, and it doesn't cost you anything, and you can come in and use the library as a reference resource. Also, what you could do is you could join either the Roman Society or the Hellenic Society. Fiona will talk more about those in a minute, so I'm not going to go into too much detail now, but student membership for either society is £25 and will entitle you to borrow up to 5 books at a time from the library, from the collect section of our books that are borrowable. Not everything is, some books are reference only, but about 2/3 can be borrowed. If you join one society, you can borrow 5 books at a time. If you join both societies, you can borrow 10 books at a time. So we'd recommend that. We've also got access to a number of specialist electronic resources and databases and so forth, that some of which you can only use on site inside the library and some of which you can access remotely. But again, if you need any help with that, do talk to library staff. At the moment, obviously, because of the pandemic, we're not operating in quite the way we used to and that we normally did. We are offering a click and collect loan service. So if you've joined either of the societies and you want to borrow books, you can let us know which books you want to borrow. We'll issue them to you, bag them up, and you can just pop into the library desk and collect them without needing to go in. We are also open 5 days a week now, but with reduced opening hours from 11 till 3, Monday to Friday. And we do also have a cap on the number of people that we can have in the library at any one time because of distancing requirements. So if you want to come in and use the library, which of course we would like you to do, and you're very welcome to do, you will need to book in advance before doing that. And if I can share my screen, I will just quickly show you how to do that. Right, so this is our website, library.ics.sas.ac.uk. And on here, you can find information about various things that we do. You can also go to search the catalogue. At the moment, the page on opening hours will give more information on the services that we offer and how to use the library under the current restrictions. And as that changes, if we're able to extend our hours or add new services in, we will update this page. So do check back. We've also got this page on using the library safely, which is the one that I'm going to draw your attention to now. This is essentially our amended regulations for working in the library in a COVID secure manner. So I would ask you all to please read through the guidance here before coming in. And also it's got the link to book a space in the library. So if you click here, that just takes you through to our booking page. You can book up to 2 weeks in advance, and it's very straightforward. Just click the day you want, The only option will be 11 a.m. Pop your details in, check the box and click book. You'll get a confirmation email to say that you've got a place, and if you want to cancel or change your booking, you can do so from a link in that confirmation email. And basically that's all there is to it. At the moment, we are asking that people not book in for more than 2 days each week, just because we do have restricted access and it allows everybody to have access in a fair manner. But we're keeping an eye on capacity, and if we can extend that as term goes on, we will. Right, so yes, and again, on our website, there are additional resources to using the library. There's a map of the library and various guides, so do have an explore there, and I hope you can find some things that are quite useful. What we would normally do in a normal year is after later on towards the end of this session, I would come down and gather you all up and take you up 2 floors to the library, where library staff would take you on a tour and show you the library. Because we're not able to do that this year, we have pre-recorded a tour of the library that you'll be seeing later on, and I'll pop back after that to answer any questions if anybody has any. That's all from me for now, and I hope to speak to you again later. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Joanna. As Joanna said, there will be a virtual tour of the library later on, and she will be available for live question and answer after that. I would just add to what she's just told you a couple of things, especially for those who already know Senate House and the University of London. The first thing to appreciate, which is mentioned on the website, is that at least at the moment, I'm right, I think, that entry is only from the Russell Square side and not from the Mallet Street side. So that might change your travel plans in terms of where to approach from, because it's quite a long walk round. And the other thing is, if you have used the University of London Central Library in Senate House, that's on the 4th floor and upwards, whereas physically the Institute of Classical Studies library is on the 3rd floor. So that if you go in the lift, which at the moment takes rather a long time because there's only capacity of 1 person at a time, you want to go to the 3rd floor rather than the 4th, which catches people out, at least at the beginning of term, quite often. However, although, as Joanna says, there is limitation on capacity, I would encourage you to go and explore the resources of the library and stay on for the virtual tour, which is extremely useful in giving you an orientation, a taste of the library. So thank you very much for now, Joanna. That's great, and we'll see you a little bit later. Bye-bye. Okay, so I hope now that we'll be able to move over, somewhere to Fiona.
Yes.
Excellent. So this is Dr. Fiona Hara, who is the Supremo Suprema, I should say, over at the Society's Promotion of Hellenic and Promotion of Roman Studies. Also normally physically located in Senate House, but here in a more remote location. So hand over to you for a moment, Fiona. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Bennett. I'm just going to share my screen with a little PowerPoint. So I'll just do that now. There we are. So as Bennett said, I'm the secretary of the Hellenic and the Roman Society, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the 2 societies, and especially what they can offer you whilst you're here in London for your MA year. So I put up a little bit of information about the societies. The Hellenic Society was founded back in 1879. And the Roman Society in 1910. You can see that both societies do similar activities. They both have a publication programme of journals. The Roman Society also publishes a series of monographs. Both societies organise a number of events, which include lectures, conferences, and sometimes visits to sites or to museum exhibitions. And I'll say a little bit more about the events that we have planned for this year in a moment. As you've been hearing from Joanna, we also jointly own the library with the ICS. We have a grants programme which supports schools, summer schools and research projects. I think for you all as MA students, one of the most relevant things for you will be a scheme that the Roman Society runs, a museum and heritage summer placement scheme, whereby we set up placements in some museums such as the British Museum and other organisations including English Heritage, the British School at Rome, some other museums in other parts of the country, the Roman Baths in Baths, and we set up.
Well, hi everybody, I am Christiana.
And I'm Giuseppe, and we're missing Carl, but we are your co-chairs for this year's PG Whip London 2020-2021. And we meet every Friday at 5 p.m. British Standard Time via Skype now. So join our Facebook group or just send us an email and we'll be happy to send you the link to the discussions. And we're a space where postgraduate students can meet, discuss their topics, and every week you have one designated speaker, but after in our pub session on Discord, you get to drink and chat, and it's a great way of networking.
Yep. And what else should I say? Personally, that was the first and best chance for me to network with other postgrad students and create new friendships and meet with my colleagues and talk not only about my research, my personal experience, my doubts and personal struggles, but also have a good time with them, enjoy my time here in London and also my career as a researcher.
Yeah, and for me as well, when I came from Canada, I did not know anyone in London, and I just wanted to meet like-minded people who had very interesting topics to discuss. And it's where you build friendships. It's where you get your views challenged and your research critique, which is a great thing when you're doing a postgraduate studies. And it's just a fantastic place and very welcoming. And we highly recommend you joining us when you can. We understand that people are busy and times are a bit difficult, but do not hesitate to send us a message and we'd be happy for you to join us. Well, thank you and enjoy the rest of the induction.
Thank you very much, Valerie, for sharing that with us. So that was a message from Giuseppe Joey Ficocelli and Cristiana Lucidi, who are two of this year's conveners of the Postgraduate Work in Progress seminar. One of the things which perhaps wasn't clear from their presentation is that this seminar, as well as being run by the postgraduate community and inviting papers from postgraduate students from not only the colleges of the University of London, but elsewhere in the UK, is a space which is, unless by invitation of the speaker or organisers, is free from the presence of the senior members. So it is like a very safe space in which you can try out your questions amongst people who are closer to your stage in the educational journey and not feel embarrassed. So I do encourage you to go and join them. So we are now moving into the next stage of this meeting, where we will be hearing from the various departments that contribute to the teaching of the MA programme. And on my programme, I have, first of all, King's College London's Classics Department. And although I don't see Lindsay Allen in the meeting, but I am here. Excellent, you're here. Do you need to share your screen, or are you just going
I
to?
don't think I do.
Okay, good. So if I may I hand over to you for a few minutes just to talk about what's happening at King's in terms of teaching the MA this term, first of all, and this year in general. Thank you very much, Lindsay.
Okay. Thanks, Bennett. Hi, everybody. So we, as a department, welcomed our own students to King's last week and gave them a lot of the nitty-gritty that we needed to give them as incoming students. So I'm here kind of to say hello to the intercollegiate cohort more broadly, and to explain a little bit about what we are doing at King's this year. It is, like everywhere, a little bit different this year. For example, we still haven't managed to get back into our department yet, which hopefully will happen. So the way that we are arranging our MA programs this year is that we are concentrating on the ancient history and the classics programs. And so everybody in the intercollegiate modules will come across a lot of our King's students circulating amongst you, and that will hopefully lead to a lot of beneficial intellectual exchange. If you would like to come to King's, let me urge you, if you've already selected a module, to complete your intercollegiate registration form as fast as possible. The person who is, as I speak, registering those is Zosha in our classics office, our colleague in our classics office, who is working her socks off right now to get everybody on the stream, because getting into our virtual learning environment will obviously be crucial this year. Ours is actually quite similar in format to any of the others that you might come across in UCL or Royal Holloway. It's a Moodle-based virtual learning environment, but we call it Keats, just because it makes us special. That will give you your main sort of material supporting each module. Now, the modules actually happening within King's, metaphorically speaking, this year are in the first semester Late Antique Magic and Engaging Greece, and also with Fiona, who you just saw. She is running the intermediate. Are you doing the intermediate Greek, Fiona, or are you doing the beginners? My apologies.
No, I am doing the beginners, and our colleague Dr. Nikki Devlin is doing the intermediate Greek, both right. From King's.
And you're doing that from King's in the sense of from my
laptop, from my Microsoft Teams.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks, Fiona. Sorry for.
No, it's a good. If I can just say then, because I've had quite a few queries. Mm-hmm. If you should, if you register, receive an invitation from the college in order to join the module. However, even I haven't received an invitation to join my own module, so the chances of any of you actually receiving an invitation may be quite small. So if you do want to do the beginners Greek for research, then I suggest that you email me directly, and I will sort of circumvent the system by generating these invitations myself. And that's probably the same if you want to do the intermediate Greek as well.
Okay, let me jump in there. Thanks for that, Fiona. Let me jump in there and say this could be something we are noticing with the way our timetable system is sending out invitations to seminars. Some of those invitations like to hide in spam folders and things. So hopefully we'll get those ironed out. But thanks for noting that, and that does sound like a good strategy for the first week to get in touch direct.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I mentioned so this semester, Fiona and Nikki teaching Greek, Late Antique Magic and Engaging Greece. By contrast with the way in which we are in some ways improvising around some of the tech, the Engaging Greece module is actually, I think, being taught in rather a more innovative way. There are there is going to be a simultaneously on-site taught seminar as well as a remote live participation. So we're quite excited about how that style of teaching will work. And then next semester we have the Classical Antiquity and the Fin de Siècle, Living in Byzantium, and my own module of Persepolis, which is all about, if I may take the luxury of explaining, thinking about the Achaemenid Persian Empire in the 6th to the 4th centuries BC via the mechanisms of looking at its capital, Persepolis, and then thinking about the global cultural reception of that site, and thinking about the cultural construction of Persian antiquity. Now, you will note, therefore, that our interests this year are designed to kind of enhance the overall intercollegiate offer, and we have notable strengths in late antique, Hellenic, and sort of diverse eastern side of the Mediterranean sides of sort of ancient studies. So please do get in touch if you're interested in any of those. I am here. Zosha is busy working away behind the scenes, and I believe Dan is on the line as well, so you may be able to ask him any questions about his module for next semester too. And I will hand over there. If there are any questions directly for Kings, please do shout or wave your hand or something along those lines.
Thank you very much indeed, Lindsay. We will have a sort of question and answer session for all the tutors at the end at about 3:30, if that's okay. Yeah, at the end of the individual presentations, because there may be some common questions. So for now, thank you very much, Lindsay, and I hope we can move over to Nick to talk from Royal Holloway's Classics Department.
Yes, indeed. Thanks very much, Bennett. Thanks for Lindsay. Could I ask everyone to have their chat window in view, because I'm not going to be sharing screen, but I am going to be posting a few links and even dumping a file in the chat as we go. And I've already posted, thank you, Lindsay, it's St. Jerome in his study, as I'm sure everybody recognised, but I had to take Jerome out because he was Zoom bombing me. So he's only, there's only his hand fingering a skull. He's a rather melancholic Jerome who says "Cogitar mori" up there. I just put Fiona's and Nikki's email addresses in the chat if you want to contact them directly about the KCL Greek modules. And I'm just about to drop in a list of useful Royal Holloway contacts, which I'll be mentioning as we go. And Royal Holloway has already started teaching. So some of my colleagues are already doing MA modules this afternoon. Chris Kramidas will be dropping in later at, after 4 o'clock when he finishes teaching Alexander. And so one of the things I'll just be explaining about is how, in particular, to make sure you have access to the Royal Holloway system if you're doing the Ancient History MA, because Sources and Methods starts this Friday. But Royal Holloway is teaching in person where possible this year. We're doing kind of the opposite of King's because we have the luxury of a leafy Surrey campus with lots of space. But nevertheless, we are constrained on the teaching rooms, so that those modules that are, apart from language modules that are taught in person, are having to be alternating weeks online and in person. And most of our MA modules, I'll run through those in a second, are actually allowing full-time online attendance, because obviously getting on public transport and coming out to beautiful Legham isn't necessarily the safest thing to do. But it does mean that if you're doing modules at Royal Holloway, we need to get you onto the system fairly quickly. A lot of you we already have, but Royal Holloway, like UCL and like King's with King's variants, is using, well, we're using plain Moodle, real proper Moodle, not your posh King's version. And to get onto this to the Royal Holloway Moodle, you need to have filled in the intercollegiate form that I know we've had quite a lot from King's. We've only had 3 so far from UCL, and that will give you a fake Royal Holloway identity. You'll be able to log in to Royal Holloway Moodle with your bogus Royal Holloway email address. I mean, it does actually work as an email address, but it will be a Royal Holloway one, even though you're not at Royal Holloway. Now, we can actually get onto, we can get you onto the Microsoft Teams channel. We're using Teams rather than Zoom for our, to our consternation, because we all hate it, for our the online component of our delivery, if we have your email address. So what I'm going to recommend you do if you're doing any Royal Holloway module, even if you've already got the intercollegiate form in. I'll just drop another copy of that into the chat in a second, as soon as I've stopped talking and waving my arms around. If you're intending to do sources and methods or any other Royal Holloway module, could you please, just for belt and braces, email Sue Turnbull, whose address I've put in the chat, with, well, obviously with your email address, because it'll be in your email, so that we can put you on the system training modules this week. We have Alexander Chris Kremidis' module running on Tuesdays. The MA element for that, I think, is entirely remote, although you're welcome to turn up in person, I think, if you fancy it. We have Erica Rowan's Pompeii, which she's trying to do in person, but obviously that won't necessarily be practical for all MA students. We have Liz Gloyn's Latin Letters, which is entirely online and using a flipped classroom model, which has a synchronous hour on Fridays. And above all, we have Sources and Methods, which, as I'm sure all the ancient historians know, is the big circus module that runs in both terms, the big 40 credit core module for everyone doing the MA in ancient history. Chris is the, Chris Kremidis is the coordinator for that this year, and I seem to have deleted his emails. I'll stick that in the, when I was pasting it earlier, I'll just stick that in the chat now. Apologies for my really clicky keyboard here. Never been the same since I spilled coffee on it last week. So that's Chris's email. And if we've got an email address for everyone doing sources and methods, it doesn't matter if you haven't got your Royal Holloway fake ID to get you in the virtual door. We can get you onto the session that's running this week somehow. I don't know how it works because I don't have to do it. I'm also going to drop in a copy, which I had a moment ago, of the Royal Holloway Intercollegiate form, which is just, I think, has just loaded. And if you haven't already completed one of those, could you email it directly to Sue Turnbull, whose address is in the chat above. And if there are any further questions, we can deal with them in the general Q&A later, but that's everything that was on my list that I absolutely had to unload. And I'm now going to pass over to Carol Ambos-Dendrinos, who does the lab side of things out of history, who are also already teaching this afternoon, and he'll be able to confuse you still further on that.
Thank you very much indeed, Nick. That's incredibly helpful. So hopefully we'll now hear from Carol Ambos, as you say, from history.
Thank you, Nick, for covering much of the basic information, and thank you, Bennett, for introducing me. Warm greetings from the History Department in the International Building housing the School of Humanities at our beautiful campus in Egham, Surrey, which you are cordially invited to visit and enjoy the scenery and the history, especially of this old Victorian building. For our young Byzantinists now and crypto-Byzantinists, a few words about our program and its history. Now, late antique and Byzantine studies have a long tradition in the University of London. It was the eminent Oxford scholar, the Byzantinist professor Nomar Baines, who established our field in the University of London after the war, when he returned to London in 1949 from Oxford. Byzantine studies were consolidated in the 1950s and 60s by his student and disciple, Professor John Hussey, and further developed by the next generation of Byzantinists. In 1987, Julian Chrysostomidis, together with Professor Jonathan Raleigh-Smith and Professor Athanasios Angelou, established the MA degree in Byzantine Studies at Royal Holloway. Now, this program centered on the middle and later period of Byzantine history, placing particular emphasis on Byzantine sources and Greek paleography. Meanwhile, it was Professor Peter Brown who invented, as we know, the field of late antiquity in historical studies and introduced its teaching at Royal Holloway in the 1970s. Julian's initiative was soon joined by King's College under Professor Ava Cameron, who, following the legacy of Peter Brown, focused her interest on late antiquity and early Byzantium. Thus, the present federal or intercollegiate MA program in late antique and Byzantine studies took its original form. From October 2009, the MA program is offered as part of this intercollegiate arrangement among University of London colleges, including Birkbeck College, King's College, London, Royal Holloway, and University College London. The aim of the program is to prepare MA students for doctoral or independent research in history, literature, thought, and culture of late antiquity in Byzantium. The original structure of our program consists of 4 elements. First, a language course, either Greek or Latin at appropriate level, beginners, intermediate, or advanced, to enable students to read sources in the original language and translate them into English with accuracy and good style. The second element is called methods and techniques, and this enables students to acquire and practice the necessary skills and methodological tools in their research. Now, this element consists of 2 compulsory modules. The first, the core course, the HS 5120, Research Methods in Late Antique and Byzantine Studies, taught in term 1, which is not assessed. And this is followed by the University of London working seminar in editing Byzantine texts in term 2, which is non-compulsory and non-assessed. In the seminar, we are editing, translating, and annotating from manuscripts the voluminous collection of the personal letters of the 13th century eminent teacher, scholar, and theologian George of Cyprus, who later became the Ecumenical Patriarch of Constantinople under the name of Gregory II. Last year, I'm pleased to report, we celebrated the 35th anniversary of the seminar in the presence of its co-founder, Father Joseph Munitis, and many veteran and younger members. And I very much hope you would like to join us in the spring. Now, the second course enables students to practice research skills, including Greek or Latin epigraphy, papyrology, paleography, as well as material culture. You have to choose either 1 full module, which stands for 40 credits, or 2 half modules, 20 credits each. The third element of the program consists of 1 full unit or 2 half-unit optional courses in which students focus on more specific areas, subjects, and periods of their choice. The optional courses offered each year may change, and this reflects the current areas of research and expertise of the participating staff across colleges. This year, we offer a more limited number of optional courses, including late antique magic. We heard about it before, convened by Dr. Ioannis Papadogiannakis on Mondays in term 1 at King's, and material culture in late antiquity, taught by Dr. Tassos Papakostas at King's in term 2, also on Tuesdays. Sorry, this is on Tuesdays. The Empire of Constantinople between the 5th and 7th century, taught by Dr. Bennett Salway in the second term on Thursdays at UCL, and 2 courses on Byzantium and the Crusades, taught by Professor Jonathan Harris at Royal Holloway on Tuesdays, the First Crusade in the first term and the Fourth Crusade in the second term. And now for the mode of teaching, either in person or online or a mixture of both, please do contact individual tutors in each college. Finally, the MA dissertation of 12,000 words, the peak of your research experience, where you will apply what you have learned throughout the year in a topic of your choice. And this is the next major step towards your MPhil and PhD studies or your independent research. I understand that UCL has simplified the original structure of our program and do not differentiate between language, skills, and optional elements, so students have the freedom to choose among all courses offered. Now, a few words about our core course. The research methods in late antique and Byzantine studies core course is taught in 2-hour weekly seminar classes by members of staff of the participating colleges this term on Fridays between 3 and 5 p.m. Most students have opted for in-person classes, and this is what we shall have this term, though some may occasionally need, for various reasons, to attend online. Since we have confirmed the course choices last week, and I have to teach at 4, you will be spared the scheduled MA Labs group discussion later, and instead, we will renew our meeting, this time in person, on Friday at Royal Holloway premises at 11 Bedford Square, behind the British Museum, as I have already emailed you. I look forward to seeing you, and again, my warm wishes to all our students and colleagues of our University of London, a family, as Greg and Bennett stressed in the beginning, a family that we cherish and a family that we love. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Haralambos. As Dr. Dendrinos emphasised there, while only at the moment Royal Holloway and University College London are admitting people for the programme in MA in late antique and Byzantine studies, in fact, King's College has a very long tradition and still a great strength in the teaching of Hellenic studies in general and late antique studies in particular, so that a number of the optional modules are based out of King's. And we hope that they will come back into the fold at some point in the near future and join us
Amen.
in supporting this programme, which at the moment Haralambos is shouldering most of the organisation of, for which we are extremely grateful to him. And so just to reiterate what Haralambos said there at the end, that those who are registered for MA Late Antique and Byzantine Studies will not be going into a breakout group at about 4 o'clock this afternoon as originally scheduled, because he has to be elsewhere, but should join him in person, if possible, on Friday afternoon at Royal Holloway's Bedford Square Annex. So that is in central London, not out in Egham, just to clarify, at the corner of Bedford Square. And behind near the back entrance to the British Museum, for those of you not familiar with the locale. So thank you very much indeed, Haralambos, and we'll move on now to UCL and start on the east side of Gordon Street with Greek and Latin and Professor Miriam Leonard.
Thank you very much, Bennett. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what Greek and Latin are offering this term. On the intercollegiate programme, we run the Classics MA, but we also run an MA in Classical Reception, and many of the students from that MA are here today just to find out about the intercollegiate MA, because they can take courses from the intercollegiate MA, and also you can take courses. Anyone on the collegiate MA can take courses that we run in reception at UCL in Greek and Latin. So Greek and Latin, UCL have decided this term that we're going to run all our core modules entirely online. So there won't be any in-person dimension to the teaching. Everything is going to be run online. And so it's very, very important, as everyone has been saying, that you gain the necessary credentials to be able to join our online platform. Everything is essentially going to be run out of Moodle, which is our virtual learning environment. So you need to be able to get onto the Moodle pages for courses that you have chosen to do at UCL this term. And for that, you need to fill out the all-important intercollegiate registration form for UCL, and that needs to be sent to our administrator, Alex Balcunias. So you need to do that as soon as possible, but because I recognise that things, the time is tight at this stage, we are going to have to ask, well, we're going to have to make we are planning to make all our Moodle sites available for guests to enter into them. And so you can have guest access, and that will enable you to get into the Moodle sites. We are hoping to password protect them. And because we're very unoriginal, we're just going to steal the UCL History's password and come and use pizza as our password to our modules available to guests. So that's pizza, in our case, lowercase all the way through. So you will be able to use guest access by using that code. The modules that are running this term, I should tell you, are Approaches to the Reception of the Classical World, which, as I said, is the core course of the Reception MA, but available to anyone on the Intercollegiate MA. And also this term, we're running Ancient and Modern Literary Criticism and Virgil. And all of those courses, I believe, are going to be run using Zoom. And the links to those Zoom classes will be embedded into the Moodle site. So you just need to click on the links to the links to Zoom on those courses to join the classes within the Moodle site. So if you have problems, even though we are making these modules guest accessible, if you have any problem accessing those Moodle sites in advance of your class next week, please email the module tutor. So in those cases, it's for me, it's me for Approaches to Reception of the Classical World, Feroz Vasunia for Ancient and Modern Literary Criticism, and Fiacre Magoran for Virgil. And we are very, very, you're very, very welcome to email us, and we can also manually enroll you into the course if necessary, or send you the Zoom link directly so you can join the class. So the most important thing is that you are able to join us whether or not you have your UCL email. So if you're having problems accessing the site in any way, please do email the tutor directly in advance of the session. So I think so just to tell you what we're doing later in the year. So next term we will also have Rome on Film running, Classical Athens in Modern Political Theory, Greek Drama, Greek Papyrology, and those will all be running next term. The presumption at the moment is that we will potentially continue online, but we'll just have to review processes between now and then. So even if we do move to in person, there will be recordings for those of you who are accessing remotely. But we'll keep you posted about everything that's happening next term. But this term, everything will be taught online. And the most important thing is to get access to those Moodle sites, and either through guest access with pizza as your password, or by emailing the tutor directly. And simultaneously, please fill out your registration forms, so we will eventually be able to send you your UCL emails, and you'll be able to access us that way. I think that's all I have to say. And welcome to London, as everyone is saying. We hope you have a fantastic term ahead.
Thank you very much indeed, Miriam. That's very helpful. And good to hear that you're going to be able to let people in with guest access, at least in the short term, until things sort themselves out. Since you mentioned it, it's useful to know, in fact, that you're going to be running the classes through Zoom, because that should actually not pose any problem for those with guest access. Whereas more integrated things, such as Blackboard Collaborate, will only work with people with UCL credentials. So thank you for noting that you're going for that choice for the moment. And similarly, Nick Lowe mentioned that Teams is being used at Royal Holloway. And that also will allow those without Royal Holloway emails to join Teams meetings. If the teacher knows your email, then they can add you to the group with your own institution's email address. So both of those systems will work independently of Moodle, even if the links for the meetings come out of Moodle, which is useful for us in our setup. I think at this point we can thank Miriam very much and move on to Paola, who is going to talk to us about UCL History's offerings, and who may want to share her screen.
Yes, so welcome to all as well. As before me, Lindsay said, this is mostly addressing students not at UCL, because the UCL students have already seen some of these. So how our modules will be taught, UCL History is doing a strong effort to try to teach face-to-face. We are back in the department and pleased to be, although only in a limited way. Please do remember, though, that face-to-face is always at best a possibility. We also offer the possibility of taking the module online. That is, some coordinators may not be able to be there face-to-face. Some students may prefer not to be or may not be able to. And then there is also the issue of room availability, because we can't put too many persons in the same room. In most cases, the decision will be taken at the first meeting. But so far, the teachers of the modules of the first term here, so Giulietta Steinhauer for Hellenistic Encounters, Amber Gartrell for Propaganda and Ideology, and Bennett for Introduction to Latin Epigraphy, all of them have said that they would like to teach in person. At least Giulietta has already received a few emails from students who said that they couldn't attend in person, and so she'll try with a blended approach. But you have to realize that if the percentage is not ideal, then it may end up going entirely online. For the second term, we would need, prophetic gifts. So again, there exist rooms. As you see, we've been allocated rooms. We have a timetable. Hopefully we'll be able to do it face-to-face, but there is no guarantee. One thing that you have to bear in mind, registration will take some time. I'll go to the enrollment in a second. I know that John Adams Hall is accessible like this, but I am not entirely sure about Bentham House. You may need a card. I'll check this with Giulietta and Amber, who teach in those halls. And if that is so, then it is really important that you're there on time at 11, because they would have to give you access with their own cards, and it would be kind of complicated. Moodle. So everything will be on Moodle, and the access, of course, ideally you access with a username, UCL username and password. Historically, that has never ever been happened within 1 week, and very often not even within 2 or 3 weeks. So hopefully things will be better, but I have no reason to assume that. And that is why we have a workaround. You go to the Moodle page, I give here the details, you click login as a guest, you look for your module, through the search thing, and eventually you enroll as guest, giving as password pizza. I do not know who set this up. It was there when I joined UCL 5 years ago, but that is the way. And this kind of guest access allows you to download everything as well. You just can't upload. So of course you can't post into a forum, you can't contribute actively, but at least you can get down whatever you need, which is already something. We'll do all we can to enroll you as quickly as can be. Here there is some support for the various problems, how you get started with user ID and password and so on and so forth, plus various WYSI thing of which we're going to see quite a lot this year, but the module coordinators will again get started with that on the first day. How to get enrolled? Everyone has been stressing the importance of the intercollegiate request form, but this is the second step. So once that has been done, you will receive an email, and this email might might indeed end up into the, the hidden things folder, the spam or whatever. So please check carefully your email, because this is really important. And then once you receive that email, you will be able to book a time slot for your card collection, or you'll be allowed to get it online. As I said, I just can't make promises to how long it will take. We'll try to do our best, but this is central admin. On campus, we have reopened, but there is signing, which means that you have to do quite a lot of circulation before you get to the eventual point. It will take long, so bear this in mind when going to your lectures. Bear also in mind that being on time is really important because of all these other side issues. Just think a moment about what you are going to face once you go there. So the furniture has been spaced so that you will be physically distanced. You can't move it. You will have to have a mask if you're inside. It might be pretty cold. So being face-to-face is going to be a different experience from the normal face-to-face. And this is something that we should remember. So it may well be that eventually conditions for total online prove more interesting actually than face-to-face in a rather constrained way. We'll see. Teaching timetable has been slightly altered as well, because we have to allow ingress and egress. So face-to-face teaching slots will be of 1 hour 30, because the other half hour has to be left for airing, cleaning, whatnot. On the other hand, if the teaching is online, then it's the usual teaching, 2 hours. And this is just some precision that we've asked to pass on, because in order to be able to keep our campus open, and we do very much hope that it will stay open, then we've got to stick to the rules. I think this is more or less all that I wanted to say. So I'll stop the share. And now that I finished talking, I'll post the links into the chat as Nick did. And if there are questions, I can have them later.
Thank you very much indeed, Paola. So as Paola has just said, for UCL history, guest access, indeed the password, as she reminded you, is pizza. And as she also said, this is not the result of some crass gastronomical stereotyping. It has been set many years ago by our colleague and compatriot of Paola's, Antonio Sennis, when he was departmental tutor. So I'm not responsible, she is not responsible, but Antonio is. We've had some queries about who to contact, who to send intercollegiate forms to. First of all, you should get your form and get it approved by your own department in your own institution, and they should send it on. But if you need to send it directly you should send it to the administrator in the appropriate department. So for UCL Greek and Latin, that'll be Alex Baltsiunas, and I put his email in the chat. And for UCL History, there's Shibi Bromwich, and he's put his email in the chat as well. So hopefully you have all those key contact details now. So since we've now run through each institution and each department, we can open it up for general questions from the floor. So either simply speak out or put a question in the chat. So do we have any queries at this point to any of those who have just spoken?
Can I ask something?
Yes, of course, Nick.
We haven't actually had anyone talking about the ICS modules.
No, that's true.
And we should just notify people that they exist because they're fabulous.
Yes.
Isn't Greg doing one?
He is, and Gabby Bodar is doing another. And there is inevitably another form to fill in, and that is available on the ICS website. Going through if you go to postgraduate teaching and then MA program, then you come to a link for the form to fill out for that. So yes, thank you, Nick, for reminding us about those two very interesting modules being run out of the Institute of Classical Studies.
I'll stick a link in the chat.
Actually, the other thing to mention is that I believe the British School at Rome is also planning to run its City of Rome course. Okay. Next spring.
Okay. And is that going to be virtually or in
believe actually
really happening? Okay.
So I think possibly each college will have somebody who would be able to speak to that and the process of applying for it, if anybody would like to consider the British School at Rome module, but it will be wise in all respects to have a backup as well. So
very, very prudent advice there from Lindsay. Have something that you are perfectly happy doing as a backup option.
Lindsay, do you have a contact or a link that we can pass to students interested in that?
I don't yet. I just received the notification that they are planning to run it. So when I do, I will circulate it to the PGT leads and everybody can have that. But I mean, for within our department, I think we will be referring to people to Will Wotton to discuss the content of the course. And I think possibly each department does have somebody who's a bit more familiar with it as well.
Thank you, Lindsay.
I have a question.
Hello, James. Yes, thank you.
Thank you for all of that information. I've actually got several questions, but for the sake of not being a nuisance to everyone involved, I'm just going to stick with one for now. Does anyone who's spoken have any particularly strong thoughts one way or the other about auditing modules?
Paola, do you want to come in on that from the UCL point of view?
Yes, I've had a request actually from someone at SOAS who wanted to audit one of our modules. And the idea was that as long as it was online, yes, but for the face-to-face, no, because we just don't have the place in the, because of the distance. So as long as the auditing person is willing to audit online, yes, and if it doesn't put the coordinator to excessive trouble because of the triangulating and so on and so forth. In person, no.
So it's very much a case of individual case-by-case organisation by the department and the person taking the module then.
Yeah, sorry, if I may say, because just to reconfirm, all modules running out of UCL Greek and Latin are going to be run online. I said core teaching or something like that might have confused people, but that's all our modules are running online. And for that reason, most tutors will be very happy for people to audit. You just need to send the tutor an individual email, just write to the tutor directly and say, would you mind if I audit? And then they can add your add you, give you guest access also on to the modules. So UCL is generally happy, but you must ask the individual tutor whether they'll be happy to have you on the course.
Thank you for that clarification, Miriam. You said you had several questions, James. So
I'll only take that if nobody else has any other questions. I don't want to steal everyone's.
Well, they may just be shy in coming forward, and you may well have questions that other people are too shy to say. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, just a very simple, practical one. Sorry, I don't remember the name of the teacher who's taking beginners Greek. I apologise, but I don't believe the person taking intermediate Greek, Nicola. I don't think she's here.
No, Nikki Devlin's not here, I'm afraid.
Okay, I seem to remember reading somewhere on an email that this may well just be wishful thinking, that intermediate Greek at King's is in person. Can anybody confirm that? Or
no, I'm sure it will be online because all of King's language courses across the board are all online. So I would be very surprised if it was in person.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. We had a question in the chat about sources and methods for MA Ancient History, that is coming up in the King's timetable. It may also come up in the UCL timetable, but it is physically and digitally being run out of Royal Holloway Classics Department, as I'm sure Nick will confirm. So to get onto the relevant virtual learning environment, which is, as Nick said, at Royal Holloway, bog standard Moodle, as it is at UCL, you do need to fill in that Royal Holloway Intercollegiate registration form that Nick posted in the chat very helpfully. So for anyone doing the MA programme in Ancient History, if you haven't done that Royal Holloway form, do please do that and get that in process.
And as an insurance policy, just in case it takes our rather overwhelmed humanities school office a day or two to get it through the system, send your email address to Sue Turnbull. She's collected most of them, but I know she had some gaps as of this morning, because as long as we've got your email address, we can get you in there, even without the form, although the form is going to be what you're going to need in the long term.
Yes, thank you very much. As Nick says, as a backup, definitely email your email address to Sue Turnbull, whose contact details again in the chat from Nick. We've had a question which I'll perhaps refer to Lindsay if she's here, about King's College Classical World and its reception. I don't know if she's able to answer that.
Sorry, I was just answering the chat question. What was the question again?
That somebody hasn't heard anything about the core module for Classical World and its reception, but it may be because people have been transferred to the Classics programme.
We are running the Classics programme for both. So anybody who applied for the reception programme will have been transferred to the Classics programme. William Fitzgerald is running the core module for both the classicists and the classical reception, the old King's classical reception people. And so there's a mixture of reception and classical literature material in the core. So what you should look out for is the core module for classics details, which William Fitzgerald should be in touch about.
Yes, that's on Fridays? Is that right?
That's on Fridays 2 till 4, along with the other core, yeah.
Yes.
Starting not this Friday, but next week.
Okay, starting next week. Oh, so that's going to be like the 9th of October.
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
I've got the programme, if you want to see the programme. I'll drop it in the chat.
So MA Classics and former Classical World and its reception students should all attend that, which is, of course, a link to the dissertation for that MA programme. And it's not a separate module for the purposes of your programme. but it does have its own Moodle page, or Keats page, I should say. Sorry. Yeah. Yes. So that's what you'll need to get access to. So for UCL students on MA Classics, they do need to probably fill in an intercollegiate registration form to get their King's credentials to get onto the Keats page. Yes, is that right, Lindsay? Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Okay. Do we have other questions? I'm keeping one eye on the chat here. Oh yes, got a hand up there.
Hi. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was just wondering. I'll be travelling up to London from Brighton for one of my lectures.
Yeah.
Are there any study spaces that we can use, sort of in the area? I know Senate House is open 11 till 3, but are there any other study spaces that we can use within UCL or within the libraries or anything?
Okay. Paola, do you want to say anything on this, or I can come in? Oh, so there are you can use UCL Central Library. There are also study spaces bookable within UCL. One that is going to be made available may not yet be available. It's meant to be available by the beginning of October, though, is the UCL space on the 3rd floor of Senate House, adjacent to the Institute of Classical Studies Library. Now, this was restricted to postgraduate research students, so that's MPhil, PhD students, last year, but it's going to be reopened. The plan is to reopen that also to PGT, Torts, MA students this year. So that is going to be a study space that should be available to you slightly longer hours than the Institute of Classical Studies Library. So it should be at least 9 till 5, so that you would have somewhere else to take refuge before 11 or after 3 p.m. But that's, I'm afraid, for the others, only open to UCL students because it requires an ID card to get in there. But I can't speak for King's or Royal Holloway. It may be that there are study spaces in the Royal Holloway Annex in Bedford Square, for instance, but I'm not sure about that.
No, actually, I don't know about that either. Carol Ambles may know, but we haven't been circulated about what's being done with the spaces that aren't being used for teaching in that building.
But if I am not mistaken, once Izzy is enrolled for whatever module she's taking with us, she should receive a card, and at least for the time in which the teaching goes on, normally isn't that the case that they do have access to students who are temporarily enrolled?
Students who've actually got a physical UCL ID card will be able to get in. So as you said, if you're enrolled on a UCL module and you go to one of the physical sessions set up by our Information Services Division to collect a card, then yes, then that will be your access key. So for Royal Holloway and King students who are doing a module based at UCL, then they would get access, but not simply with a UCL electronic ID and password. That is not going to work. You're going to need the physical card, which actually will mean coming to UCL in person and picking one up at some point. Yes, thank you very much for that question, Izzy. It was very, very useful to have that aired. Do we have, oh, Paola?
Well, what you just said made me think, when you receive that email suggesting that you enroll either online or in person, if you are sure that anyway you don't want to set foot there, then choose, of course, online. But otherwise, just on the off chance, it might be worth the trip and the booking. Your decision, of course. But I thought I would say it before you block yourselves.
Yes, thank you. As a number of the locations that have been booked for teaching for our MA courses are in buildings that have card access. So that's going to be the case for for me, partly, for Julieta as well, as you said. Yes, Izzy again.
Sorry, just to clarify on that, how do we pick up those cards then? If we are, because I'm a Royal Holloway student,
yeah.
but I'm this term and next term going to be enrolled on UCL courses. So where would we pick up a sort of temporary UCL card?
When have you? You should get an email confirming your UCL credentials at some point.
Oh, okay. I haven't got one yet.
When you get that email, it should have details of where and when to go to collect an ID card.
Okay, thank you.
Which I can't predict what those will be because everything changes so fast.
Okay, thank you.
I have a general question for everyone. Does anyone know the Warburg was supposed to be reopening today? Does anyone know what it's doing? I can't find a damn thing on their website about what the actual arrangements are, but it's something that many people, I mean, I was plugging it to our students at our induction last week, and there may be somebody here who knows what its hours are going to be.
Afraid I don't.
For the benefit of those who don't know, the Warburg Institute, which is just around the corner from Senate House, is an absolutely wonderful library where everything is on the shelves. You can't borrow from it, and it's a research library for the high European classical tradition, and particularly for people who are doing reception-related things. But because it's on the same library system as the institute, often there's some negotiation between the different libraries as to which London library is going to get a copy of a particular title. And if it's actually going to be open to readers, that might be another option for study spaces. You would, of course, have to get registered there for a card, but that's very straightforward. But I can't find anything about what hours it's actually opening.
Lindsay's posted some information in the chat, I believe. We also had a question about the teaching for MA Ancient History Sources and Methods, whether this is going to be entirely online. We haven't got Christos here at the moment. I don't know if Nick is able to say, confirm or deny.
Sorry, I muted myself.
Sorry.
Yes, Sources and Methods is going to be entirely online. And so that's why we need to get everyone on the Moodle page in time for Friday at 2 o'clock, isn't it? When the session is. And as soon as Chris finishes teaching in 7 minutes' time, he will be joining us to field any specific questions about that.
Thank you very much, Nick. Thank you. Okay, so do we have any more questions about the practicalities? More may occur to you, so there will be an opportunity at the end to come back with things that might occur to you while we listen to the virtual tour of the library, which Joanna might want to introduce, and then Valerie play. So can I hand over to you, Joanna, for a second?
Sure, thank you. Probably not a huge amount to introduce because it's all in the video. Just apologies in advance for the slightly shaky camera work as we go around the library. But yeah, I'm very happy to take questions afterwards.
Okay. So here we go, I think.
Welcome to the Combined Classics Library. My name is Joanna and I'm the librarian. In this video, library staff are going to be taking you on a tour of the library. We will walk around the space and demonstrate the library services as we go. We start in the lobby of the 3rd floor of Senate House South Block. At the moment, you can see that we have one-way systems and sanitising points due to the pandemic. There are lockers here in the lobby that can be used if you have bags with you. Bags larger than this parcel cannot be taken into the library, although you are welcome to take your own books and laptops in with you. We can supply clear plastic bags to carry these if you need them. It's not possible to take food and drink into the library, apart from still bottled water. The first time you visit the library, you will need to collect your library card at the desk. You can sign up online in advance with either of the societies, or download an ICS membership form from our website and email it to us. Once you have your library card, you scan it here to enter the library. Due to the current COVID secure regulations, you'll need to book in advance and check in at the desk before entering. If you are borrowing or returning books, you will need to do so here at the library desk. You could also collect books here ordered through our Click and Collect loan service. We can give you a printed map of the library to help you find your way around. And if you have any other questions, you can always find staff at the desk who will be happy to help.
Hi, I'm Shannon and I'm the Graduate Trainee Library Assistant. As you enter the library, you enter into a lovely corridor of books. This is the beginning of our literature section. The class marks begin at 76 on the left-hand side. As you follow the corridor along to the left, notable sections are those such as the primary texts in the form of Tubner texts, Oxford Classical texts, and Bew texts for the French parallel translation. On the right-hand side of the corridor are analytical texts dealing with both Greek and Latin literature and including the classical tradition in literature. The first literature room deals with classical authors in alphabetical order and includes both primary texts and secondary texts. So you can find, for example, both Aristotle's Poetics and a companion to Aristotle within the same section. Please note that the numbering in our classification system is not based in the decimal system. So for example, Sappho is 93.35, not 93.35. So our numbers go up as 31, 32, 33, etc. The second literature room continues this alphabetical sequence of authors, starting with Homer. But it also importantly contains a section of rolling stacks within which you can find vital general reference works, such as dictionaries, including dictionaries of mythology, and important encyclopedias such as Pauli's. For those working with classical reception, you might be interested to know that there is a modern fiction section on classical themes within the rolling stacks. These reservation shelves are for books that you have been using during your visit, which you would like to use again in future visits within the space of 5 days. Please use a separate reservation slip for each book.
Hello, I'm Paul Jackson and I'm the Deputy Librarian. Papyrology, Epigraphy and Paleography Room. As the name suggests, books on these 3 subjects are shelved here, as are the relevant periodicals. We have comprehensive holdings in the first 2 areas, so let us know if you find any gaps, but only keep the main paleographical works. The Senate House Library, on the 4th floor, has the university's main paleography collection. The room also houses auction catalogues, larger literature books, and most books in the library with a folio class mark published after 1900. The rest have to be requested in advance from the rare books room, as do any books with the cupboard location. Archaeology and Art. This is our main reading room. The book sequence begins with Mycenaean and Minoan material facing the Papyrology, Epigraphy and Paleography room, and then continues with Etruscan material and general topographical works, such as the Limes conferences. It continues with archaeology divided by area, such as Middle East, Russia, then Asia Minor / Turkey, Egypt, Africa, Cyprus and Crete, the Balkans, Italy, and then the rest of Europe, finishing with Great Britain. The archaeology and topography of Greece is out of sequence on the wall facing the back of the British Museum. In the art section, after general and then Greek and Roman and Byzantine / early Christian art, the subject is subdivided into architecture, general exhibition and museum catalogues, bronzes and sculpture, Greek and Roman vases, terracottas, lamps, and minor art including jewellery, metalwork and glass. Book trolleys. Book trolleys are available in each of the main reading rooms for books that you use during the day. Could you please make sure that you only put on a trolley books that come from that room? As we are quarantining books for 3 days after use at the moment, could you also ensure that you put books on the shelf labelled with the correct day? Thanks very much.
Hello, my name is Christopher and I'm the Periodicals Library Assistant. The library seeks to acquire any periodical of academic quality relating to the ancient Greek and Roman worlds. Approximately 2/3 of our periodicals collection come on exchange with other libraries, universities and museums throughout the world. Most of the periodicals may be found in the rolling stacks at the back of the archaeology reading room, also referred to as stacks 1 to 18. Within these stacks, the periodicals are arranged alphabetically by the title of the periodical. In addition, there is a section for periodicals in Greek, stack 19, oversized periodicals, stack 20, and periodicals in Cyrillic, stack 28. Just beside the rolling stacks, there is a display of new periodicals which have been received during the past 3 months, in case you wish to browse the very latest additions to our collection. If you cannot find a periodical which you need, please ask to speak to the Periodicals Library Assistant, who will be happy to help you. Please take care when using the rolling stacks and make sure that there is nobody else inside the stacks before turning the handles. The majority of periodicals can be borrowed by members of the Hellenic or Roman societies. The only periodicals which are not available for loan are those which have the letter X before the class mark.
Hi, my name is Sue Willits and I'm the Senior Library Assistant. This section of the library, beyond the double set of doors, contains the books on ancient history, starting with sources, then Greek history and Roman history, as well as related subjects such as colonisation, democracy, law and politics. The sequence starts in the right-hand corner near the seating area and continues through the centre of the room. Towards the end is a large section on mythology and religion. Also in this room, along the side wall with the high windows, are books on philosophy, which is continued by a section on science, medicine and technology. The books on classical civilization follow on from a small collection on modern Greece and continues on both sides of the corridor and back into the main part of the room with sections on the army and warfare, trade and economy, and ending up with books on theatre performance, music and dance. There is also a small area at the end of the corridor which contains a collection of atlases and gazetteers and an ongoing series of volumes known as the Corpus Versorum Antiquorum, CVA for short, covering collections of vases in museums around the world and arranged by country. This section of the library also includes 3 other rooms. One is dedicated to our collection on numismatics and has been named after John Casey. This includes books on coins as well as the journals on the subject, which have the class mark NUM for numismatics on the spine. Next, we have our computer room, from where it is possible to access specialised databases for which the library has subscriptions. This includes a database of Greek literature, the Thesaurus Linguae Graecae, and the Library of Latin Texts. There's a display board on the wall just behind the door showing more examples of our digital resources, and our website provides more details. There are 2 PCs available in this room at the moment, and due to our new arrangements, you will need to make a booking. There's a section of books here on computing and classics, which are accessible, but you will need to request any books from the closed section on wall painting and mosaics. To the right of the computer room, there are 4 research rooms, which are allocated to Institute of Classical Studies Fellows. But the room at the end, labelled as Stack 29, is available to you and contains a PC set up for using the catalogue. In here is our collection of journals on Byzantine studies, late antiquity and Christian archaeology.
The catalogue. The catalogue of the entire holdings of the library is available online. Because of COVID risks, we recommend that you consult the catalogue via your own computer or phone, although there are 2 catalogue terminals in the library. We share the catalogue with the other School of Advanced Study libraries and the main Senate House Library. You can search the catalogue by author, title, subject or keyword, and also using any of our library class marks. The catalogue record will indicate if a book is on loan, on the new bookshelves, at the binders or in repair. If you cannot find a new book, it may still be being prepared for the shelves, so do ask us.
Thank you for following our tour of the library. We do hope you found it useful. Further information on using the library can be found on our website, or just get in touch with any questions. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you very much indeed, Valerie, for playing that. Yes, applause from Nicola, thank you. I think Joanna needs to take off the credit there for putting that together. Before we go over to Joanna for some questions and answers, there are just a couple of things that I would add. One is an informational thing. As you were shown there, as you come in, you have texts, and then you go into rooms on classical authors, studies of authors. One thing that is particular about the Institute of Classical Studies classification system for the classical authors is that the Greek and Latin authors are integrated into a single sequence, which is by Latin alphabet. Okay, so Homer is under H, and that you will find authors, whether they in Greek or Latin, in a single sequence, which is actually incredibly useful for those authors who write in both languages, because you find everything together. The second thing I would say is that although it is true that the Ics Library is extremely important for the richness of its collection, and as Joanna said earlier, for the things that other libraries in the UK don't have, one of the other things that is particularly important about it is that even where holdings overlap with your own institution's library, the proportion of the collection that is on open shelf is very high compared with other institutions who, under pressures these days, have consigned many books to store, and many past journal runs, past the current few years, again to store. So that, and sometimes even when they're not available electronically, this is true at UCL, and it's very irritating. Whereas if you go to the Institute of Classical Studies, you can go quickly from one reference to another, going from one shelf to another, and it saves an enormous amount of time. So that's one reason for using that as a base for your study that I would add to the ones you've already heard. But before I take over and monopolise things, I should open things up and let you ask the librarian questions you might have. So over to you and Joanna.
I could start off by taking the comments that I saw around, has anyone ever been squished by the rolling stacks? Nobody's ever been actually injured by our rolling stacks, but most people have got the experience of assuming that there's nobody there and starting to roll them only to hear an "ah" come from further down. So yes, please do check. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got one.
Yep.
In terms of books being quarantined after their use, can we see that on the website, like a little notification if we're looking at the availability of the books? Can we see that it's been quarantined, or do we just have to sort of turn up and roll the dice?
It's a bit of a mix, I'm afraid. So books that have been borrowed by somebody, when they're returned, the website will then list them as in quarantine for 72 hours after they've been checked back in. Books that somebody has used inside the library, then they're not issued to people, so there's no way of showing that on the system, but they will be on the shelving trolleys in the room that they live in. So if a book is listed as available but it's not on the shelf, then quickly checking the shelving trolley is the next best thing. So questions in the comments. I've got, do you need to book a time slot to return a book? Nope, you don't need to book to return. There are two ways of returning. We've got a dark blue wooden returns box that we keep down in reception on the ground floor of Senate House. So if you just want to pop into the building and drop off a book there, you can do that. You can also, from the hours 11 to 3, Monday to Friday, come up to us on the 3rd floor and hand over books that you want to return there. Another question about online copies. In most cases for us, I'm afraid the answer is no. The reason for that is that, well, multiple reasons. Some of them are financial. Also because the way we're structured, most of the people who use us are from other universities around the country, and most publishers won't give us a license to provide online access to people away from the library who aren't staff and students of the School of Advanced Study, which isn't much use to us. So I'm afraid until we've got a solution to that massive licensing problem, we don't have many online copies. Any other questions? Yeah, as Nick says, most of the college libraries can provide access to their own students, so you'll get the core books online there and come to us for everything else.
Okay, we've got another query in the chat there.
Yeah, so yeah, question about extended time on anyone who's used us before and has still got books out on loan. Obviously, we are being really generous with loan times at the moment. If your book is due back and you're having difficulty getting it back to us, just let us know, and as long as there's nobody else waiting for it, we'll extend the loan. And we're certainly not charging any overdues during the pandemic.
I should reiterate that in general, the administration of the Hull Library is very humane.
And there are some things that we have to manually override because we share a system with Senate House Library and the other SAS libraries, but in general, staff are always very happy to manually override things as long as we're able to. So do come and talk to us if you've got any questions or concerns. I'm going to pretend I'm not seeing all the comments about slightly dodgy online websites that share illicit copies of books.
Yes, close your eyes to that. Okay, so if we don't have any more questions for Joanna there, I think we can probably let her off the hook for now and thank her for joining us this afternoon. It's been very useful to have that. But I should say that the library tour is available through a link on the Institute of Classical Studies website with the MA Induction materials. So you can go back and watch that at any time. So I think that's actually going to become a useful resource and something that we can think of making a permanent thing. So at any moment now, breakout rooms will be created. And we are now going to hear a pre-recorded message from a previous graduate of the Intercollegiate MA programme, who is now in fact doing a PhD at UCL, and so is a face you may well see around at the Institute of Classical Studies Library if you do make it there. So when Valerie is ready, I hope we'll be able to go over to the message from Christina Gonzalez Mestre.
Hi everyone, my name is Christina and I did the MA in Ancient History. I think it's 4 years ago now, so that's been quite a long time. I'm currently on my last year of a PhD at UCL in Ancient History as well, so I have continued ever since then. And I suppose that my message this year is going to be slightly different from the ones I gave in past years, because of course the situation is greatly changed, not only because it's been 4 years since I did my MA, but also because obviously coronavirus has changed everything. But still, I really do hope that you enjoy your time in the MA, in Intercollegiate MA, and that you make the most of this experience. So I guess that what I can tell you about this that you can take with you even in these difficult times is that you should never put yourself in a box, because I know that this being an intercollegiate MA gives you a lot of pathways, and perhaps you may consider yourself more of an archaeologist or more of a historian or of a classicist, but don't try to remain in those boxes, but make use of everything, every resource, and everything that the MA can give you. So just try to mingle, try to open your mind when you're choosing subjects, and even within those subjects, since the essays that you're going to be given are rather free, just try to make the most of everything that you are given here. I did meet some of my best friends in London during the MA, and not all of them are historians like I am. Some of them are medievalists, they're classicists, even some archaeologists, which I love. And so it was one of the best times of my life, because you're going to have a lot of time not only to go deeper into the subjects that you love, but also to get to know people that otherwise you may not have known. And in that regard, I really encourage you to go to the postgraduate work in progress seminars, even if you don't think that the themes are going to be very interesting to you, because they may not be especially relevant, but often the ones that you expect the least from are the most interesting. And especially mingling with people afterwards and going to the pub and chatting, you know, even like we're all shy people, and I say that from experience, but you will have a lot of fun, as I'm sure I did, and you're really gonna enjoy that time. So please do go to the PJ website. I couldn't encourage you more to go. And also the ICS, which I think that it has been introduced to you already. The ICS library is the best resource I've ever come across in my life. I basically live there, or I did, until coronavirus forced us all out. But it's reopened now, and please go there. It's gonna be your best friend. Every book, every journal, everything, even if you need, you know, some obscure 1860s book in German about, you know, a Greek epigraphy in Lydia in Asia Minor, they will have it, and the librarians are amazing. They're super helpful, and it is amazing. So just go to the ICS, enjoy everything that it has to offer you, and also the Roman and the Hellenic Societies have really great lectures, so I encourage you to go there. And just generally have fun. Now you're here obviously to learn and to get good grades on your essays, but what I loved about the MA in my time was how much freedom of thought it allowed me, how much room there was for discussion and for going into other subjects from the ones that you had. And yes, just like make the most of the time that you're here and of all the resources that UCL has to give you, and make friends, which I'm sure you will do. It's going to be maybe a little bit trickier for you, but I'm sure you'll manage somehow. And I really hope you enjoy your time in the MA. Bye.
Well, thank you very much, Valerie, for playing that. So unfortunately, we don't have Christina with us live to cross-examine. about her experience, but I hope it gave you a taste of one person's experience of doing the MA a while ago. The postgraduate work in progress seminar that she mentioned and you had an intro to earlier on, the link to that has been put in the chat by Paula. So you can contact the organizer of that through that Gmail account. Okay. So thank you. I mean, this has been a very long afternoon for you. You've been very patient with all of us. But before we go, obviously I'd like to thank Valerie for hosting it and all our colleagues for their presentations. But it may be that there are things that my colleagues have forgotten to say that they want to say before everyone departs, or we have questions that haven't yet been answered. So we have a question about accessing the recording of this. Well, once it has been recorded, it will take a while to process and then it'll be put up on the Institute of Classical Studies website. Charles Anthem has a question.
Yeah, sorry, I'm sure this has been said before. I think I just missed writing it down. For the intercollegiate forms that we need to fill out,
yes,
do we send those to our respective personal tutor, so Paula or whoever, to get sent off, or do we send them to specific emails within the institutions?
Once you filled it in, the first thing you need to do is get permission from your own department or institution. So you can either send that to the program tutor, but it may be quicker to do it directly to the relevant MA administrator.
Actually,
yeah,
Shibi requested them for yesterday, I'm afraid. Yes, so hurry up to Shibi. Yes.
So for UCL history, that's Alistair Shibi Bromwich, a.bromwich at ucl.ac.uk. Okay. Any other practical questions? Okay, well, if not, it just leaves me to thank you all very much for staying on the line and to wish you a very enjoyable year on this MA, even in the current circumstances. It will certainly be different, but that's not necessarily a negative. There may well be some positives coming out of this. And I hope to see you, or some of you, either in the MA core module or in sources and methods. So that's a large proportion of you I'll be seeing one way or another through the year. So I will wish you farewell and let you go on your way.